I remember when I was younger and I got my driver's license for the first time, it was really neat to be able to drive at night. There was just something relaxing about going down the roads and just listening to good music with the windows down, and it was cool. It was a great time to drive. Nowadays, I don't like driving that much at night. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and the glares really bother me, and the thought of something happening and me being stranded in the dark is kind of scary. And honestly, driving at night, there's some pretty horrible things that have happened. We're going to react to a few of them today by Nightmare Files. Make sure to head to his channel and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, guys. If you like reaction videos, subscribe to my channel as well. Let's get into these stories.
My name is Brad, and this story happened about 2 years ago.
All right, Brad.
I recently started a new job and made a few casual friends quite quickly.
Okay.
One day at work, my friend George said he was having a house party on the weekend.
Nice.
And invited me to come along.
Right.
I accepted his invitation. That weekend, I drove to George's house party.
Okay.
I recognized a few faces, but most of the people that were there were his friends outside of work.
Right. So you didn't
I wasn't drinking
that.
alcohol that night as I was driving.
Sure.
And also, I'm not much of
Good.
a drinker anyway, so
Right.
I was drinking soft drinks all night. At one point, a man approached me. He was
Okay.
wearing a scruffy leather coat, had a shaved head, bad teeth, and was quite small.
All right.
He looked a lot older than most of the people at the party.
Okay.
He introduced himself as Jerry and said he was a friend of George's. We talked for a little bit, but the conversation was quite awkward for the most part. I finished my cup and said excuse me as I was going to get another refill.
Somebody just
Jerry
starts
offered to
talking
get
to
it for
you.
me,
You're really
so
not
I
feeling
accepted
it.
his offer to get me another drink.
Okay.
He came back and we carried on talking.
He tried to spike
However, it wasn't long until I started to feel sick and dizzy.
it. Uh-oh.
And it
Did
was
he
getting
drug
quite
it?
late, so I thought I would head home.
That's
I
not
said goodnight to
good.
George and headed outside to my car.
Right.
As I approached my car, Jerry called my name and jogged over to me. He asked if I could give him a lift home. I said sure, and Jerry got in the back seat. I found it weird that he sat in the back seat and not in the front,
Right.
but I was more focused on going home. After driving for about 2 minutes, I started to feel worse, more dizzy and lightheaded. I heard Jerry unbuckle his seatbelt and unzipped his pants.
Oh my gosh.
I saw him in the mirror when he was leaning forward towards me.
Trying to rape
I
you?
was about to ask him what he was about to do, but I heard a police siren behind me,
What the
signaling
heck?
for me to pull over.
Whoa.
As soon as I stopped the car, I opened the door and threw up on the side of the road.
Right.
A police officer approached me and told me he pulled me over because he suspected that I was driving under the influence.
Yeah?
He also asked why my friend exited the vehicle and ran off.
Thank goodness,
I asked the
man.
officer what he meant.
It could have
He
been a
told me as
lot
soon as I
worse.
stopped the car, the man in the back seat opened the door and ran off into the night.
Wow.
I was feeling like crap to think too much about it.
Right.
But the officer wanted to give me a breathalyzer.
Yeah.
I accepted it as I knew for a fact that I hadn't been drinking.
Yeah.
And the results came back negative.
Right.
The officer asked
You had
why I
been
was
drugged.
driving that way, swaying back and forth. I told him I had just come from a party and I didn't feel well, so I wanted to head home. The officer looked at me for a moment
Right.
and then asked how well I knew the person.
He
that was in
had
my
to have
car.
suspected
I told
something,
him I didn't
right?
really know him. I just met him that night and was giving him a lift home. The officer then said he suspected that the man had spiked my drink.
Yeah.
It was probably about to assault me. It made sense, and I told him that before I pulled over, he unbuckled his seatbelt and pants and was leaning forward.
Oh,
The
yeah.
officer said he would send out a patrol looking for the man who was in my car. He was very kind and trusted me when I told him
Thank
that I
goodness,
felt fine
man.
and I can drive home.
Right.
So he let me go. The next day,
I
I
don't know
told
if that was
George
such a
what had
good
happened
idea,
to me and asked if he knew Jerry. George
had
told me
probably
he
had
didn't know
no
anyone
idea.
named Jerry, but he said he would ask around if anyone knew Jerry.
Guy
or
just showed
recognized
up
my
at a
description of
party
him.
and tried to
Unsurprisingly,
make somebody a victim.
No one knew him.
Right.
I often think how lucky I am that the police officer was there and
Thankfully,
caused Jerry to
man.
flee from my car,
Right.
proving that Jerry had malicious intentions.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who knows what might have happened to me that night.
How stupid would you be for
Be
letting
careful who you
somebody
pick
drive
up.
like that,
Be
too?
careful when you drive around at night.
Yeah, like Jerry made him drive him somewhere. He could have gotten a bad accident. That was a risky move on the part of him for sure. He must have been desperate for a victim that night.
About
Holy
2 years
cow,
ago, I had
man.
trouble sleeping. I
Yeah.
would get these really bad headaches.
All right.
I spoke to a friend of mine about it, and he suggested that I should go for a night drive, as it helped him when he was stressed out.
Here's some popping.
I
every
started
once in a
going
while,
night
guys.
drives
I'm
whenever
sorry
I was having
if-
trouble going to
I
sleep.
don't know if it's the recording.
One night I
or
was driving, and it was
headphones.
very foggy and lightly raining. I looked in my mirror, and in the distance, I could see headlights.
Right.
It was a bit unusual to see a car at the time of night, but It wasn't anything suspicious.
Right, I mean...
The headlights faded away and I couldn't see them anymore. About a minute later, all of a sudden, the headlights were back and right behind me, driving very aggressively, beeping their horn. I slowed down to let them pass me, but they didn't.
Okay.
They kept tailgating me.
Uh-oh.
So I decided to pull over and see what their problem was.
Right.
But when I stopped the car, they drove straight past me and disappeared down the road into the fog.
That might be a good thing.
I took a breath and then carried on driving.
Right.
About 5 minutes went by, and I saw headlights in my mirror again.
They were following me.
I didn't think it would be the same car as they had just passed me. But when the headlights sped up,
maybe they waiting to see where you live.
Once again beeping their horn and tailgating me aggressively. I knew it was the same car as before.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why they were acting this way and how they were now behind me even though they drove past me. I didn't pull over this time. Instead, I carried on driving.
They were just harassing you.
The driver of the car carried on tailgating me.
Yeah.
And beeping their horn constantly, just like before.
Just drive to the police station.
But it wasn't long before the car lost control, then swerved off the road and crashed into a tree. After seeing the car crash behind me, I stopped my car abruptly.
What the heck?
I hesitated whether or not to get out and check to see if the person was okay.
Okay, maybe I was wrong.
They seemed to be out to cause harm. Cause me harm specifically. But I couldn't leave the area knowing someone might be hurt.
Yeah, just call 911.
I turned my car around and drove up to the tree where the car crashed.
Right.
When my headlights reached the tree, there was nothing there. There was no car, no tire tracks, nothing.
Huh.
I started to think I was losing my mind and not getting enough sleep.
Bad, dude.
I headed home after finding nothing.
Right.
The following day, I told my friend where I was driving and what I experienced. He laughed and said I might have seen a ghost. I thought he was joking.
What?
He told me the road I was driving on was known as Death Road. I asked him why it was called that.
I kind of got the creeps, dude.
And he told me, apparently, years ago, a drunk driver was aggressively trying to knock a car off the road until he lost control and crashed. He died at the scene.
What an urban
I'm not a person
legend,
to
dude.
believe in ghosts or supernatural stuff, but what I witnessed was so real. And the fact that I could hear the car right behind mine and hear the crash makes me believe I did experience something paranormal that night.
Dude. Oh, that gave me the chills so bad, man. For real. Alright. Story 3, y'all.
My name is Ken, and the other day I was watching videos on YouTube. And one of them was why people experience paranormal activity or feel like they live in a haunted house.
Right.
One of the reasons that people experience things supernatural or paranormal is for a punishment of an action you did or didn't do.
Really?
I found it interesting because about 4 years ago, I had a very strange and frightening experience.
Okay.
The job I worked for was changing things around, and it asked me to work later.
Sure.
So for a short period of time, I was driving home late night every night.
That stinks when jobs change the schedule, man.
It was cold, raining, and I was very tired.
That sucks.
I wasn't used to the late nights just yet. As I was driving, I noticed a hitchhiker on the side of the road with his hand out asking for a ride.
In the
I
bad
never picked
weather?
up a hitchhiker and didn't plan to then. In my mind, it was too dangerous.
Right.
So I drove past him.
You just call somebody
I didn't look back at all.
If that's the issue.
A few miles down the road, I saw another hitchhiker. It was like it was the same person that I drove past, but this time, they weren't holding out their hand.
Right.
I was having trouble keeping my eyes open, so I stopped at the next gas station I found to get an energy drink.
Right.
I went inside the gas station, grabbed an energy drink, and stood at the counter waiting for the cashier to come back, wherever he was. As I was waiting, I looked outside and it looked like the hitchhiker was standing in the parking lot looking towards the gas station.
Okay.
At that point, the cashier came to the counter, and when I looked back outside, the hitchhiker was gone. I thought I just needed some sleep.
Yeah.
I got in my car and carried on driving home. About 5 minutes passed when I saw the same hitchhiker standing on the side of the road.
Oh, man.
I looked in the mirror
and
briefly saw a man in the back seat watching me.
Oh my God.
This scared me and made me jump so much I nearly lost control of the car.
Were you being haunted?
I stopped the car, got out, and checked the back seat and saw no one.
Right.
I stood there trying to calm down and catch my breath. After calming down, I got back in my car and continued driving. The whole ride home, I was afraid to look in my mirror.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't see that man again, I still felt him sitting there watching me. I never came up with a logical explanation of what I experienced that night. Before watching that video about paranormal crap,
right.
I always thought it was my lack of sleep that caused me to see things.
Maybe it was an experience, buddy.
What I was seeing was that man on the road and in my car was some kind of punishment for not picking him up.
Maybe, that's a stretch, but honestly, it could have been. Yo, these were some great stories, huh, guys? Nightmare Files, guys. Make sure to subscribe to him as well as a couple other videos that I reacted to from him. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.